Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Videoguys Live. It is Tuesday. It is about 3 o'clock, which means we're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so talking about things that are going on in the live streaming world. And today we're really excited to be talking about some bundles that we have put together with PTZOptics. Now, these bundles were originally put together for educational spaces. You know, think about morning announcements, theater programs, things like that. But then once we started thinking about it a little bit more, we realized that these bundles are actually just a really good way to think about live production in general, and specifically for those smaller crews, and even more specifically, single person operation studios. As things have gone on and things have been able to do more and more things, more gear has been able to do more and more jobs, your crew sizes have come down quite a bit. Think about it. You don't need somebody that is doing your autofocus anymore, or your focus, because cameras are so good at being able to autofocus. You don't need to have a camera on a tripod anymore because you have a camera that can do auto tracking built in. A lot of sound systems will have wireless mics or microphones that are just planted on the table, and you just have your sound, your mixer doing all of your sound control. And so we're going to break down all of these different things, and we're going to talk about some of these different bundles that we put together with PTZOptics. So like I said, this is becoming the new normal, these single operator studios. Now, when you think about our show, we oftentimes will have one or two people in our studio. We'll have a remote guest in our studio. We have multiple cameras in our studio. We have a teleprompter in our studio. All of this is in a single studio, but all of these are being controlled by one person. Even our graphics are being controlled by that same person. So this is becoming the more norm. Now, of course, you still need to have a talent, so your entire crew will consist of more than one person. But even when you're doing a podcast, a lot of the times now, you'll see somebody using something like a stream deck, and they'll be able to do their switching as they're interviewing their guest, or as they're talking about whatever they're doing. So this is totally becoming the norm. Like I said, even in a multi-camera situation, one person can control what's going on in there. Now, a lot of the software-based switchers and turnkey solutions have PTZ control in them, but also you can utilize the fact that PTZOptics cameras come with an IR remote, which allows you to be able to set and recall presets from a single press of a button on an IR remote. So that one person can still control all 3 or 4 of your cameras that are in this multi-camera production. And from that remote, you can also turn on and off auto tracking. In this example here, we're just doing a podcast where the two people will be sitting down. But if you have a camera in the middle and it's your wide shot, but then you go to a close-up, let's say you only have 2 cameras, you can have your other camera be your close-up camera, and you can control that camera's presets for whichever person is speaking from the IR remote. You can turn on and off auto tracking from the IR remote as well. So lots of control that you can do just from a single operator without having to have somebody manning each individual camera. So what do you need to have included in a single operator production studio? Well, the first thing that you need is you need a good camera. Let's face it, nobody's going to watch your video if your camera doesn't look good. So you need to have sharp video, and PTZOptics has got you covered there. They have box cameras, they have PTZ cameras, and all of them have amazing image quality. You need to have clear audio. Today we're going to be talking about some solutions from Elgato and Roland. And one of my favorite sayings that I heard when I was in film school was, somebody will watch a movie if the visuals are not all that great. But after about 10 to 20 seconds of bad audio, most people will lose attention, and they will not be able to deal with the bad audio. So clear audio is just as important, if not more important, than your video. So do not, skip over the audio when you're making your one-man production. The other thing that you want to be able to do is have easy setup. PTZOptics makes it really easy. Again, you just connect the camera to your network and you're off to the races. And easy operation. Everything can be controlled from their IR remote. They have their web GUI, and of course they have their PTZ controllers as well. So they make operation easy as well. So PTZOptics has got you covered in most of these right off the bat. Now, of course, the clear video, again, starts with the right camera. PTZOptics offers both box cameras and PTZ cameras. So they have their Studio SE and Studio 4K box cameras. Now, these are single frame cameras. They clearly do not have the robotics on them, but they still have the same image quality and they still have the optical zoom quality. They still have, your HDMI, your SDI, your NDI, outputs, USB outputs, all of the things that you would expect to be on a PTZ camera are in their box cameras as well, just can't pan and tilt. And then of course they have their PTZ cameras, which include the Move SE and the Move 4K, which being the biggest difference between the Move SE and the Move 4K is the Move SE is a 1080 60p camera and the Move 4K is a 4K 60p camera. Now there are some differences as you move up to the Move 4K in terms of the auto tracking capabilities and group tracking, that those are only available on the Move 4K, but largely they have the same functionality, same ins and outs, and same compatibility with either HDMI, SDI, or NDI or USB workflows. So great cameras to go to start with, and you cannot go wrong with them. Now, of course, we already talked about this a little bit, but clear audio keeps the audience connected. You have to make sure that your audio is coming in clear. You have to make sure that your audio is coming in sync as well. That's another thing that we don't talk about a ton on this show, but almost every single switcher on the market these days has an audio delay feature built in, especially if you are going to be using NDI, and we'll talk about that a little bit later too. But if you're using NDI, your video will be delayed, and if you're just taking the audio out of your sound system that you already have in place, or if you are just plugging your microphones directly into your switcher, your audio is going to be near instantaneous, whereas your video is going to be delayed a little bit. So you need to be able to delay your audio to have your audio and video be in sync when it goes out to whatever streaming platform you're using or recording platform that you're using. So again, you got to make sure that you have really, really clear audio and in sync audio. We recently took on Elgato, and Elgato has their Wave 3 Mark IIs available. These are great microphones for setting up for a podcast and other situations where you're going to be sitting relatively close to your microphone. So great way to do that. Now, of course, there are a whole host of other things that are not necessarily needed for a production, but sure do make things a lot easier and a lot more high quality. And of course, that's going to be things such as the PTZOptics SuperJoy or the IPJoy. The SuperJoy is their flagship controller, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. And we were talking about the making things easy to set up and to operate with as well. One of my favorite features on the SuperJoy is that it actually has a basic mode that you can put it into. So you can have one person that may be really tech savvy and they set up the SuperJoy controller, but then you have somebody that is maybe a volunteer that's coming in to do your camera operations, and you don't want them changing your shutter speed or your white balance or anything like that. So you put the camera into basic mode, the controller into basic mode, and it basically locks out all of those other advanced functions while still being able to pan, tilt, zoom, call presets, turn on and off auto tracking, but it can't change any of those more sensitive settings. Of course, you can add things to this from Elgato's line as well, such as like the Stream Deck. And you may be thinking that the Stream Deck really isn't all that, but I'm here to tell you that it is. Over at our production system, we actually have a Stream Deck, and Adam is using it to pull up our lower third. Sometimes he uses it to change one of the compositions in our production system. You can absolutely use the stream decks to take your production level to the next level, and it's only $150. Of course, you're going to want to have some lights in there and also a prompter, especially if you're going to be using a podcast or a more like training video or something like that, where you need to make sure that your talent has a script in front of them and they're not constantly looking down at a laptop screen or at a piece of paper in their hands. But you can put your camera right behind the teleprompter, put the script right on there. It's going to make things easier, it's going to make things faster, and it's going to make your talent in and out of the room much quicker, which will make them happy, especially if you're doing, again, training video or like boardroom meetings or things like that. So we've talked about all of these different elements that are needed or heavily suggested to be used in a production, and now we're going to talk about different bundles that are available from PTZOptics with some of our other manufacturers as well to kind of find the right workflow for what you're looking to do. So we have our Switcher Studio bundles, which are going to have hardware switchers included in them. We have our all-in-one studio bundles, which will have an all-in-one switcher in it as well. Then we have Wirecast Studio Solutions, which Wirecast is a software-based switching and encoding platform. And then we have our Quicklink Studio, which is a turnkey production solution, which is going to be all-in-one turnkey production system. So let's break down some of these different bundles, including starting off with the PTZOptics Switcher Studio. Now this is going to be for your more simple, low entry-level productions where you're going to be using an HDMI switcher for more straightforward workflows. These are going to be, you take the HDMI out of your camera, you plug it into your switcher, you do your physical switching, and then you have your HDMI output, which can go into, an encoder or a dedicated recorder. So again, these are going to be really good for like school announcements, podcasts, classroom video projects, or simple studio productions. This is going to be good, especially again with education in mind, hands-on for your students to be able to get their hands on these things. And of course, we here at Videoguys always say, get the students involved in the production. Both Adam and myself come from a background of video production, and we got that start in school, and now we make a career out of it. So highly recommend that we get these production gear into students' hands. So there are two different ways that you can get this the Switcher Studio bundle. There's an HD Switcher Studio bundle, and then there's a 4K upgrade. So the HD Switcher Studio is going to include a couple of PTZOptics 1080 cameras, including the Move SE 20x optical zoom PTZ camera, the Studio SE 20x optical zoom fixed frame camera, the Roland V1 HD Plus, an Elgato Prompter XL, and then a Elgato Wave Mark II and an Elgato Keylight Mark II. And that bundle is going to come in at just $4217.96. Now there is essentially a 4K upgrade that you could do with this as well. So instead of getting the Move SE and the Studio SE, you would upgrade to a Move 4K and a Studio 4K, which again, the major difference between those is you're going to have 4K 60p. And then instead of the Roland V1 HD Plus, you would swap it out for the Roland V1 4K. We just did a product spotlight on the Roland V1 4K and put it up last week. So if you want to get more information on the Roland V1 4K, you can absolutely do that. But these are great HDMI switcher systems. And then of course you have your Prompter XL for telepromptering, microphone, and a light to be able to light your subject. So this is going to be really good for, again, a single person that's doing a podcast and having one operator. Now that operator could be the person that is running your setup, but ideally you would have this be someone else. And again, so this would be your HD workflow, and here's your 4K workflow, just swapping out the Move 4K, Studio 4K, and the Roland V1 4K. Now let's talk about some all-in-one production studio bundles. So now we're talking about not just being able to do your switching and simple lower thirds on your production system, but now we're stepping it up to an all-in-one portable solution, and that would include the YOLO Box Extreme. Now the YOLO Box Extreme has HDMI inputs in it, but it also has NDI inputs on it, it has USB inputs in it, and it has not only the ability to do your switching and recording locally, but it also has the ability to do your encoding. So again, this is really, really good for those compact studios because one of the benefits of the YOLO Box Extreme is it's this portable tablet essentially at the end of the day. And it's really easy to get students, again, hands-on on this. But because it is a tablet and it is very portable and battery operated, you can take this out for school events and assemblies and things like that. It can be transported throughout your building. And again, if you put your cameras on the network, then you can just connect your cameras to the network anywhere and be able to control them, see them, and interact with them. So just like the other bundle, we have an HD all-in-one production studio bundle and then a 4K upgrade. So the HD bundle will again include the Move SE20X and the Studio SE20X, and then it will have the YOLO Box Extreme. It's going to have the same Prompter XL, the same Wave 3 Mark II microphone, and the same Keylight Mark II from Elgato. And again, once you step up to 4K, it's just swapping out those Move SEs and Studio SEs for Move 4Ks and Studio 4Ks. One of the great things about the YOLO Box Extreme is that it can go all the way up to 4K 60 for both recording and encoding, so you don't need to get a different all-in-one switcher for this bundle. And here's an example of how that might work. You connect your cameras via HDMI to the YOLO Box. You can still use the IR remote to be able to control the PTZ camera. You can even control the zoom in and out of the Studio SE or the Studio 4K if you went with the 4K version of this bundle. And then you have your teleprompter, your microphone, and your light. Next up is the PTZOptics Wirecast Production Studio. Now, Wirecast is a software version of a switcher and encoder. We had Shane Scrimmager on our show just a couple weeks ago talking about Wirecast, and he did a live demo. Now, one of the really great benefits of using something like Wirecast is if you already have a PC or a Mac available that has relatively decent specs on it, there's a very good chance that it can run Wirecast, and Wirecast will run very well. And then that's the beauty of it. If you already are in a place where you have either a PC or a Mac, which I need to emphasize that it works on both PC and Mac, you don't need much other things, and it brings your cost down a little bit because all you're paying for is the software for your switching and encoding. And this is also really great for once you start getting into those higher ed kind of workflows, because this is going to look more and more like a traditional professional live streaming setup. So this is going to be great for media programs, broadcast classes, even esports, which is becoming very, very popular. And of course, Wirecast can handle multiple cameras in a production. So just like some of the other bundles, there is an HD version and there is a 4K version of this. One of the differences with these bundles is we're starting to add in Netgear M4250 switches. Now, we have done a lot of shows on the Netgear M4250 switches, but once you start going into an NDI workflow, that's where the Netgear switches come into play. You can connect all of your NDI compatible devices into the network switch, and that acts as a hub for all of your NDI devices to be able to communicate to each other through. And as I said at the top of the show, not only do all of PTZOptics cameras have HDMI, SDI, and USB capabilities, but they are all also NDI compatible, which means you can control them and see them once they're connected to a network switch. Wirecast also has the ability to be able to control your PTZ cameras over the network through the software. So again, there's an HD version of this bundle and a 4K version of this bundle available. So this is where things get a little bit more involved, actually. I skipped ahead because I forgot to mention that these bundles are also including PTZOptics 3 camera bundles. Their producer bundle, which includes the Move SE 20X, 3 of those cameras plus the IP joystick. Or if you go to the 4K version, it includes 3 of the Move 4K PTZ cameras at 20x and a Super Joy controller. And so you can kind of see all of these things working together here. So as you can see, the IP Joy controller, the 3 PTZOptics cameras, and Wirecast are all connected to that Netgear M4250 switch, and that is how those are all able to communicate to each other. You have that Stream Deck that is also connected to the computer, which means that it is also connected to the network, and PTZOptics does have a plugin for the Stream Deck to be able to do PTZ control and setup via the Stream Deck. So you can do your control of your cameras from the Stream Deck as well. You have your light, you have your microphone, and you have your teleprompter. And now you have multiple cameras, so you can do a little bit more coverage, and this is going to be great for 2 or more guests in your production. And again, if we just step up to the 4K version, the only thing that's going to be changing here is now we're looking at 3 Move 4K 20Xs, and we're utilizing a PTZOptics Super Joy controller, which I have right here, which again has that basic feature, which for a one-man production makes this really, really easy to set up and operate. Last but not least, we have our Quicklink production studio. Now, Quicklink has their Studio Pro, which is a turnkey production system. So basically, this is a computer with software already pre-installed, the Quicklink Studio Pro, and this also has high-speed network ports on it to be able to utilize NDI. It does come in other versions as well with SDI options. But again, this is a turnkey production system. If you don't already have a computer in place and you need to start from scratch, this is a good solution to get into because it's a turnkey production. Now this is available with the Move 4K 20X producer bundle. So that means 3 Move 4Ks plus the IP joystick, the Super Joy joystick, excuse me. It includes the Quicklink Studio Pro NDI. So like I said, that's the NDI only version of the Quicklink Studio Pro. It includes a network switch that has enough power over Ethernet to be able to power all of your cameras plus the controller and act again as that hub for all of your NDI devices to communicate to each other. It includes a Stream Deck Mark II, an Elgato Prompter XL, and then your microphone and your light as well. And this is kind of like what that would look like once you put everything together. All of your cameras, the Quicklink Studio Pro, and the Super Joy would connect to your Netgear M4250 switch. All of those will be able to communicate to each other. Steam Deck's connected to the Studio Pro, which can also control the cameras as well. You have your light, and you have your prompter for your host or your guest to be able to say the lines that they need to before they get into their production. So we talked about a lot of different workflows, and we talked about a lot of different price ranges and budgets and sizes. But at the end of the day, all of these productions can be operated by a single person. We are here to help find the right bundle for you as well. Maybe you want to swap out a camera, or you want to swap out a production system, or maybe you want to add another microphone or 2 microphones so you can have 3 people on your show. Absolutely, the best thing for you to do at that point would be to give us a call. I answer the phone most of the time. We have other people here that are able to answer the phone and answer your questions if you have any questions. So absolutely, please take advantage of that. And if you give us a call and we help, put the right pieces together, we can do our best with pricing as well. So again, if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about today, absolutely, please feel free to give us a call at 800-323-2325. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday at about 3 o'clock Eastern.
Videoguys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.